that we open the meeting of the Planning Board of the Village of Southampton on the 7th of December, 2020. Lisa's on. We're opening the meeting, Lisa.
Somebody want to second that?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, welcome everybody to the December meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board. Kathy, can you share the agenda for the meeting?
Sure. There you go. Maybe I should make it a little smaller, huh?
Great. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is Paul and Joan Robinson, 245 Old Town Road, which is an application for final approval of a site plan, which preliminary approval was granted in 2010. And we are here now for the final approval. At a previous meeting, some of the neighbors surrounding this property expressed concern, and it was determined that we, as the board, would allow the neighbors to make their objections to the plan known to us in writing, which we did receive some communication, and also for the applicant to rebut those objections. The board has reviewed the material we have received and has given it a great deal of consideration. There are several issues that need to be addressed, and I've spoken to get the tenor of the board regarding this, and I'm happy to go over my sense of what our position is. There was some concern that this application it's been 10 years since this application was first approved, the passage of time, the length of time it's taken for the applicant to move forward with the plan. And during that time, it has been pointed out that the community has grown and changed as everything does. The fact is, though, that there is no statute of limitations on a preliminary approval. There is no requirement that the plan be executed within a certain period of time before it must be reviewed again. Maybe there should be, but there is not. So there is no problem with this application having taken this long to reach its final approval, and cannot be held against the application because it has taken that long. There was also some concern raised about the fact that one of the requirements for this plan to go forward was that the applicant needed to find property to cover the issue of water rights, that obviously with this property being developed, places being, the ground being covered with houses and paving, it's required that open space be substituted. So the applicant found a property in the village, in the Hillcrest area, and has succeeded in acquiring that property and having the property approved by the county as a proper substitute for the sterilization requirement. There are some criticism of the fact that this property may not, possibly may not be in the same watershed as the subject property at 245 Old Town Road. However, the fact remains that the county has approved the Hillcrest property as an effective substitute for 245 Old Town Road. It's not this board's capability to question the county as to whether that was a proper decision or not. We simply require that the applicant get the county's approval that this be done, and it has been done. So there's not really an opportunity for us to consider this application negatively because the applicant has done what was required of them. The third major point of the application is that the plan was approved in 2010. And following its approval, there was no continued opposition to it. There was no Article 78 presented. The plan did require that variances be obtained from the zoning board. Those variances were obtained. Those variances were challenged, and that challenge was rejected by the Court of Appeals. So the application has stood up to the challenges that were presented, and there was no actual Article 78 challenging the actual site plan at all. There have been no changes to the plan. So again, the fact that the plan was approved, there have been no changes to the plan, in spite of the fact several years have passed, again, makes it incredibly difficult for the board to consider any negative, to consider reversing our original decision on the plan because there are no changes and it has been approved. That said, the final criticisms about the plan is that it is reducing one of the larger lots in the village, cutting it in half. And do we want Southampton, every large lot in the village to be subdivided and reduced in size? My personal opinion, and I believe it's the opinion of the board, that would be not a thing that we would look forward to in Southampton Village. However, this particular property lays in the R12.5 zoning area, and the size of each of the parcels will be considerably larger than 12.5. In fact, most of the houses in this area sit on lots that are smaller than the lots that will be created by this subdivision. It is a fact that 12.5 lots are not the standard in Suffolk County. The county's minimum lot requirement is R20. Yet in Southampton Village, we allow R12.5. That is a village zoning law. It's not, again, within the power or authority of this board to regulate zoning issues. We are required to enforce the laws as they exist. And the law right now is that R12.5 in certain areas is the minimum lot requirement. So my point would be that if people are objecting to lots being subdivided and being made into lots that are too small, the proper course of action would be to contact your trustees and make it clear to them and to the planning commission that develops the master plan for Southampton Village that you don't want to see all of the larger subdividable lots in the village subdivided, and change the zoning laws. In this particular case, in this particular application, given that it has already been approved, very difficult for us to go back and revisit that without impinging on the rights of the applicant. Again, that said, I believe I'd like to ask the board's opinion. I would like, as the planning board, to write a letter to the planning commission, copying to the trustees our opinion that subdividing the larger subdividable lots in the village is not a direction we think Southampton Village should go, and that this planning board should supports the Planning Commission and the trustees if they were to look at increasing the minimum lot size in Southampton Village. So that's the 4 points that I would like to make. I'd now like to ask if any of the other board members would like to add to what I've had to say.
Well, I want to say thank you, Roy. You just did a great job with the 4 points. And I know that I agree that this is not something that we want to encourage in the future, but I believe our hands are tied at this point.
Would you be in support of us writing a letter as I've outlined to the Planning Commission?
I definitely would.
Okay. Alan, Tony?
You covered it all. Everything that you said in the 4 points are exactly how I feel. And I'm in strong support of sending the letter to the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Alan, if you want to say something, you're muted.
We're not hearing from Alan.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah. You know, Tony's up there, what I used to think was the dapper dog. That's a great place he is. Been there more times than he has in my life. Roy, I'm all for a letter going, which I'm sure you can write well. It will, the minority against it will be people that are hoping to make more money to go to Florida by selling a lot that can be divided. The usual stuff. Real estate's always 150 years now, real estate's king in the village. I do think that a larger neighborly view of what it takes to regulate these conflicts would be helpful to that commission, because I know they're going to struggle with it on a number of headings. On this one, I think we are like stare decisis, or whatever they say, which Alice opined to eloquently at our last meeting. There are very few things that this application gives us the power and authority to do, which will, as usual, make fewer people unhappy, or whatever they say, more people happy. The 10 years is pardon my French, is a real pain in the ass. I mean, this really is extraordinary, but I do not know a person practicing law in our area that doesn't find the procedures and aptitude of the county board when it comes to water somewhere between inscrutable, inexplicable delay, and a huge pain in the ass. We have more applications in the brief time I've been on this board that are held up for 2 to 3 years waiting for the water authority. Time after time, we're getting extensions. Why? Routine matters, waiting for the water authority. And is water important? Absolutely. But I think we're sending lettuce by rabbit. I don't know what we could do to write a letter to the Suffolk County Board to say something needs to be done, because the people are being afflicted by a month to do standards that other people didn't do 10 years ago. I mean, you got to think of 2 letters, because this happens over and over again. And in this case, the applicants have taken a long time, and I think a lot of money, to do something that is, I guess, about as creative as you can do under the circumstances. Alice gave us a view, which I thought was well stated. I think the minutes reflect it. There's very little open to us. The only item which Kathy has raised by an amendment to the SECRA dealing with parking is if we can bear the extraordinary burden of going back over a negative declaration, which was, I believe, by reading the history, Roy, you remember, you were on the board, was a well-reasoned neg deck. It was a long, arduous process with lots of interventions. There's a real burden to opening one of those up for any reason. I think Kathy's suggestion, I just saw the email this afternoon, Kathy, thank you, about parking. But, and you can say that's pretty trivial. But once you get on the slippery slope of these neg decks, everybody has a favorite feature. It's amazing what they put into it. the only avenue I can see to granting in this so-called overriding COVID delay time would be anything that where this board in the aggregate thinks there is a genuine burden that we can meet, probably with a deserved 78 appeal that we're nuts to open the neg deck for some reason. I'm not sure it exists, but boy, the village is changing in lots of ways. The particular neighborhood that this property is in may be one of the areas of the village that will change the most in the next 5 years, but that's up to the applicant. I can't take the motion to be a plaintiff's lawyer or come in or an objecting lawyer and say, oh my goodness, the world will change on that side of the village. But if the rest of you think there's some extraordinary burden that the village faces, not us, we don't face much of a burden, but the village faces with the passage of time, that the passage of time has created, nothing else. The applicant has acted entirely properly as best they could under the circumstances. But if there's something facing the village that we need to be responsive to, I think the only thing that we could do would be to get our learned counsel, who's pretty wise about these things, to brief us on what would be the burden of opening up for another review, that negative declaration. The only thing I can think of, I'm not in favor of doing it, but that's the only item I can see which is material for the village as a whole that burdens us with our executing our right authority. Burden of time. Long speech, but it's a complicated issue. This is, we were really generous just to open up that written appeal.
Well, my understanding is that having already granted a negative declaration for the SECRA application, that the bar to cross to revisit that is incredibly high, again, without some significant and material change in the situation.
Yep.
And the situation being, well, people now are more concerned about density than they were 10 years ago.
That's not it.
I'm not sure that's going to make it.
Nope.
They are, I agree. They are, and they should be.
They have been. It comes and goes, but that's not, it's got to be something I think more tangible and a real intervention in the environment. You know, moving the goalposts is one thing, but saying you're going to, play football on a square field, not an oblong one, it's something major you got to deal with. If it exists, I'm not sure it does.
Well, thanks, Alan. Lisa, have you got anything that you would like to add to the discussion?
I agree that it's complicated, and the one aspect coming onto this board as as new as I am, is that this is an incredibly long period of time, and it appears that there are different sensibilities about the village now. The density issue, the water issue, the zoning issues at this point. But thank you for clarifying all of those points previously, and I think you did a great job in doing that. I wonder if there's, because of this time period, if it does make sense to have this opened up one more time because of the timing issue, if it's allowed for public information at this point to have a further say about this.
All right, I'd like to get Kathy Eisman's opinion on the point Alan brought up about SECRA and overriding a pre-existing negative declaration.
I can comment on the SECRA review. I did take a look at all of the background, the Part 1 EAF, the EAF supplement, and then there was an EAF Part 3 and then a supplement. And it still stands. It still holds true today. I mean, it was prepared 10 years ago, but everything is the same except for, like we said, the parking on Herrick Road. There would have been an impact previously because there was on-street parking on the south side of Herrick Road. And then, so they would have lost potentially 2 to 8 spaces. However, now there's no parking permitted on the south side of Herrick Road. So that impact has been eliminated. With respect to the groundwater, it certainly is something that Suffolk County regulates. Minimum lot size under Suffolk County sanitary code is 20,000 square feet for a single family home. And that is what the Board of Review and Suffolk County Health Department looked at when they evaluated this. And then they actually turned down the applicant's request to use Pine Barrens credits for this application as an alternative, and required them to purchase a piece of property within the contributing area that would be sterilized, so no house would be built on it. So that's what you do with a sending and a receiving program, a TDR program. They evaluated that, they issued the approval, and yes, it took 10 years. So as far as opening up SECRA, nothing has changed there. I understand the concern about overdevelopment and lot sizes. These are small lots. 12,500 square foot lots are, you don't see those everywhere. The village actually has 7,500 square foot zoning elsewhere in the village. So I would encourage, if the board would like me to, I will prepare a letter on your behalf that I'll send around to request that the Planning Commission look at this when they open up the topics for the master plan. I know that they're looking into what aspects of comprehensive planning should be studied for this next round. I mean, it is a 20-year-old comprehensive plan. So, but as far as the reopening the SECRA and starting over, we did that. We looked at it from the same set, the same type of viewpoint as we would have starting from scratch. And technically under SECRA, you don't even have to do that. Although we were, Alice felt that it made sense to do so. And I agree that, especially with a controversial project, you want to make sure that you go through it and make sure that, you've dotted your I's. So, but we did take a very careful look this time, and we recommend the neg deck be adopted.
Okay, thank you. Well, I can say that having been on the board when the application was originally approved, makes me a longtime bet that the objections that were raised that I read now were the same as those raised then. And it was a contentious issue, and it was a closely fought issue, and it only was decided 3-2 in favor of the applicant. But that having been decided, as we're kind of learning in the political situation today, you've got to sort of go with the votes. Whatever the people decide is what you've got to go with. So I was in the opposition at that point in time, and I now find myself in the odd position of taking a look at the application and realizing that the applicant also has rights. It was approved. There has been no changes. And therefore, my personal feeling is that we should probably close the application and move forward and do whatever we can to make it more difficult to do this in the future, but that in this particular instance, the applicant has secured his rights to the subdivision.
Right. May I ask a quick question? I just thought of something. The new septic systems, one of the things that has changed in 10 years are the type of septic systems that are being installed on properties now, and they take up a lot more space than a traditional system did. And I'm just wondering if there's any reason to take that into consideration. Could one of these systems even fit on a lot small?
I certainly don't know. Kathy, anybody know?
I know that they will be required to install one, so they'll have to make it work.
So it would affect the size of the house that they could put on the lot, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, that'll take care of itself then.
Yeah.
All right.
Chair, I do have Mr. Flanagan's hand up and Mr. Kurtz's hand up as well. Ms. Kurtz's hand.
Without wanting to, since those were the two main respondents, I would be willing to listen to both of them, what they have to say, but we're not opening the public hearing for broad public comment at this point.
I'll bring them in. I'm sorry, 1 second. I am having trouble. Oh, here we go. Here comes Mrs. Kurtz and Mr. Flanagan. Okay. I just need you both to put your cameras on and unmute yourselves, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Thank you for your time and all the effort made on behalf of our opposition to this application. I am disappointed because it looks as though this is a fait accompli on something that I just don't have the knowledge base, even though I am an attorney. I just do not have the knowledge base on this area of the law to dive down, I guess, and find where I could find something somewhere to stop this in its tracks, because I do believe it should be stopped in its tracks. And I think that you're the body that is now in the only position to do so, yet you're seemingly bound by a decision made upwards of 10 years ago. And
we're not bound by the decision, we're bound by the code and the laws surrounding that code.
Well, yes, but, and again, I'll even defer to Mr. Flanagan. I'm sorry, Gil Flanagan. Mr. Flanagan, the lawyer for the applicants, he mentioned that the one item that I thought I saw in the code that would give you an opportunity to oppose this has to do with the larger subdivision and not the minor subdivision, the major subdivision. So what I don't understand is why this body, through Ms. Elsman and Ms. Cooley, are so reluctant to open avenues that might be present, that might, even though they agree that this is a big event to subdivide this type of property, why they're so reluctant to see if there's anything there that in the SECRA review raised by the chairman.
I don't want to speak for them, but we've already looked at it. That's the problem. I mean, we've looked at it very deeply and with great detail. We haven't found anything. I mean, that's ultimately the problem. There's no place else to look.
And so the tolling, there's no tolling of the statute. There's no tolling of the approval of the original planning, I guess, the Board of Appeals, I guess, that allowed the variances.
It's not up to this board to contest previous decisions. If people in the community want to contest, they certainly have the right, but they lost. Mm-hmm. They did contest and they lost. At some point, you kind of got to go with what the decisions have been made. And it's not up for us as the planning board to then challenge the decisions. one of the notes I got from a member of the public regarded that the actual zoning law had been enacted improperly in 2005. Planning board's got to deal with the laws that are written. I mean, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it is the law. And if we have to sit back and go, well, is it a good law? Is it a bad law? Was the law developed in the right way? And we could never, we have to deal with the law as it is until the law is changed.
But you know, I read that letter and that was curious, where you had the applicant not recusing himself. I mean, I understand that you're not going to get into that kind of business, but it didn't look right. It didn't pass the smell test to me. But I guess the next question I would have is to Planning Board member Lisa Roberts. Are you willing to join the letter that the chairman mentioned, writing to the Board of Trustees and to the Planning Commission about stopping this kind of subdivision?
Bringing it up as an issue to the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees? Absolutely.
And same with member Jane Claire, is that true?
Absolutely, I concur. We none of us are happy about this.
No one seems to want this on the Planning Commission, but I just out of curiosity, why is everyone, is it a threat of a lawsuit that you're concerned about coming from the applicants that you would be subjected to if you denied this or gave us more time? Jay Deasing, I spoke to him, he called me right before this meeting and he said that there was a death in his family, so he couldn't join it. But he thinks that there, and I just don't have the knowledge base again to talk about it, but that there is concerning that there should have been 2 parcels bought, or this parcel doesn't, the parcel on Hillcrest won't meet the requirements, or the requirements won't satisfy the village, that it will be going into the Agawam, not the Old Town aquifer. Again, this is beyond my knowledge base.
Once the county says to the applicant and to us, the property that you have purchased and sterilized is okay, somebody else, Jay Deasing's got to go to the county and say, hey, you made a mistake. But it's not the planning board's job. We're basically, come to us with your approval, and when you've got it, you've got it. I mean,
so why not give us the time to go to the Department of Health and make sure that this is that this was done in 100% correctly?
The right thing. We are trying to do the right thing and follow the procedures in the codes and protect both people's rights, the rights of the neighbors and the rights of the applicant. I mean, we're not trying to rush this thing through, or we're trying to do the right thing. And
right. So Miss Roberts also mentioned that, Member Roberts also mentioned that, why don't we give some people like me and people like Jay Deasing and others who might have
10 years.
Know the steps.
We've had 10 years. No
right.
Article 78.
Well,
no objection. No nothing. Come on. At some point, you gotta move on.
Well, for me, I just learned about it, so it's not 10 years to me, but it's within, I guess, a month for me. And I'm somebody who's in the sphere of notification requirements, so I guess I count for somebody. I'm a lone voice, but I just think especially where the property's right across from the hospital, and all that property is up to it's going to change.
I mean, again, we can't look forward and project who knows what's going to happen. The hospital may not move at all as a result of COVID. Who knows what's going to happen? If we have to make a decision based on what we think might happen,
Well, are you opposed to extending this? I requested another 3 more months, so people can go to the Department of Health and make sure that the sterilization requirements that they requested were correctly requested. I'm not talking about the applicants. I'm talking about
that was asked of them. They've done everything that was asked, and now you're going to say, okay, now you got to wait even more. If this was you, you'd be extremely upset if the board was just delaying and delaying and delaying.
With all respect, if I had 200 plus 300 neighbors opposed to an action I was taking, I have to say, I
did not receive 300 letters.
That, you know, that isn't how I would approach my neighbors.
You did not hire an attorney. We did not get 300 letters.
Well, I thought it was over 200. I'm not talking about today, but I'm talking about the original opposition that was mentioned in some some of the, I guess in one of the legal opinions about 105 Little Plains.
This isn't 105 Little Plains. This is Old Town Road.
No, I know, but I'm saying that they were objecting to both subdivisions at the time.
I would like to hear from Mr. Flanagan, and then I would like to ask the board to consider closing the application. Gil, are you there?
I am here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board and your consultants for the effort and time you put into this. And I think your analysis is correct based on as you know, my quite a number of years of experience in this particular field. I might also point out, as I did in my letter of response, the neighbors were given 3 weeks after the last meeting to come up with, and Mr. Stevenson himself said, something new, significant, and material, and there was nothing. There was only a rehash of what was discussed 10 years ago. Now, there's been a suggestion about revisiting the decision of the Suffolk County Health Department. As your attorney, your counsel will probably tell you, a decision of that nature is reviewable by an Article 78 proceeding, and I believe that the statute of limitations on that is 4 months. So that has long since expired. As far as any further extensions or keeping the hearing open for any additional length of time, I would vehemently oppose that. Nothing new was submitted by the neighbors. Not one shred of either factual or legal information was given to you. The applicant has acted in good faith, torturing himself and dealing with the health department. And we would respectfully request, as the chairman has said, that the hearing be closed and that a decision be rendered. I think you've heard from your attorney and also from your planning consultant that things are pretty well fixed. And I think that the applicant's rights deserve that attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So just before, if the board is going to consider closing the public hearing, then they would need to adopt the negative declaration prior to closing the public hearing. And I think technically, because the board closed it for written comment, technically the board should reopen it for the purpose of the secret determination and then close it.
Correct.
That makes sense.
And we wanted to add to the application some conditions regarding the driveway access, the moving of the pool, et cetera, et cetera. When does that happen?
I think, go ahead, Alice.
I think we can do that tonight because I think there are only 2.
You think we are going to do it, or we should wait?
I think we should close for a written decision tonight, but I think if you want to discuss the conditions tonight, we can do that just so the applicant and the neighbors are aware. The only 2 that I saw would be prior to, prior to either the sale or a building permit being issued for parcel 1, we would need to make sure that the applicant had removed the non-conforming portions of the residence on parcel 2. And the other, I think, was just limiting access. Is that right, Kathy, for parcel?
Yeah, so originally the idea was to have the driveway on parcel 1 as far west as possible to, so that way they could, you know, not take out so many on-street parking spaces. That's moot, but I would say limiting it to 1 new driveway on Herrick Road makes sense. It doesn't matter where it is on parcel 1 because you're not taking out parking spaces, but I would not allow a new driveway for parcel 2 on Herrick Road. So you only want 1 new driveway. The existing house should have its driveway on Old Town.
My memory is pretty bad, but if I recall, those were agreed to back at the time of the original decision. Flanagan, isn't that correct?
My memory's a little fuzzy on that, but I don't see a problem with that being a condition.
The previous approval didn't have conditions in it, so I just wanted to.
I remember discussing it in the discussion of the application that that's what we were going to do. So I would like to make those conditions of the approval.
Okay.
That doesn't sound unreasonable to me. I think one thing, if I could mention a clarification on condition 1, I think what you've done in the past is to require a removal or an adjustment of an existing building only if there was a change of beneficial interest. For example, in a couple of cases I can recall, the applicants put the lots in separate names, but there was an identity of interest just to preserve the zoning status. And that's something that you guys have done on 3 or 4 occasions I can think of. And if you'd consider that, I think that would make sense, as long as they're basically used as one. It's only if there was conveyance to a third party.
Conveyance to a third party or the issuance of a building permit for
right.
a new.
Yep, that's good. That'd be consistent with what you've been doing. And that's great.
Okay, so instruct me on what we need to do as far as procedurally to get those put into the application, and then with regards to the public hearing and the SECRA thing.
Well, if the board is amenable to adopting the SECRA determination, you should have a vote to reopen the public hearing so we can adopt it.
Okay. Does somebody want to propose that, Alan? Is that something you would do?
He's on mute.
Unmute. How about now? Am I off?
You're off.
Good.
You're good.
Yeah, Roy, I will move that this board approve a motion to open a public hearing for purposes of bringing up to date on these 2 technical issues, the secret determination that was made by this board 10 years ago, pursuant to a vote of the members.
Someone want to second that?
Second.
Antoinette, would you take the roll?
You're on mute, Antoinette.
Sorry, guys. Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Claire?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
Aye.
And Mr. Piazza?
Aye.
So now we would do a vote to approve the amended secret neg deck, correct, Kathy?
Correct.
Yeah, I make a motion that pursuant to the outline that Nelson Pope and Voorhees delivered to us this afternoon with regard to the parking changes that were imposed since that opinion of 10 years ago, that the neg deck be amended in that fashion and to deal with the subsequent action of the zoning board that reflected the earlier decision of our board. I would move that we amend the technically the neg deck approval that this board gave 10 years ago.
A second for that from someone?
Second.
Antoinette?
Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Claire,
Aye.
Mr. McFarland,
Aye.
Mr. Piazza.
Aye.
Thank you. Now do we,
Close the public hearing for decision only.
close the public hearing for decision and then do, okay, so let's do that.
Okay, I'll make a third related motion that we vote to close the public hearing and ask Council Cooley to prepare an opinion for us to, I guess, acknowledge at the next meeting.
Second.
Oh, Antoinette?
Sure. Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell,
Aye.
Ms. Claire,
Aye.
Mr. McFarland,
Aye.
Mr. Piazza.
Aye.
Now, do we need to close the application or does that take care of that?
No.
To close the public hearing.
We've done that.
Yep.
I would like to go on record and maybe we can take a vote approving my request to Kathy to draft a letter to the Southampton Planning Commission, copies to the mayor and to the trustees, expressing our concern over the fact that the planning board is often left in the position of approving over neighbor objections, the subdivision of lots, and that we would request that the Planning Commission clarify their intent moving forward as to the minimum lot size in Southampton Village. So if somebody would second that, I'd love to put that on.
I'll second that.
Okay. Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell,
Aye.
Ms. Claire,
Aye.
Mr. McFarland,
Aye.
Mr. Piazza.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll do that.
Anything else that we need to take care of with this application this evening?
No.
Okay, thank you. So let's, Kathy, can you put the agenda back up? We'll move on to the next
Sure.
item.
Okay. Can you see it?
I can, 99 Sanford Place. Another public hearing. Typically, we would ask the applicant to introduce the application to the public.
I did receive the affidavits of posting and mailing and they look to be sufficient.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Chair, I have Mr. Gilmartin here to represent the application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, David, I just need you to put on your camera and unmute yourself, please.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York. As the map that Kathy had up indicated, it's a 2-lot subdivision.
Whoops.
Sorry.
There we go.
Okay. Is directly behind Schmitz. It's located in office district. As you can see, there's an existing office building which is not currently occupied. Our plan is, after the subdivision process, is to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and request a special permit to convert these lots to residential use. And then we will adaptively reuse the office building for a residential structure. The residential use is consistent with the 2 lots across the street, although as you get further down Sanford Place, especially with Schmitz, it is a commercial area. This application was actually approved by this board in 1988 in a somewhat different form. There was a cul-de-sac at the end where we now have a turnaround, which you I can see is identified as the emergency vehicle turnaround. My understanding from the applicants at that time, which is the Platt family, is that they didn't move forward because of health department issues, and eventually abandoned that application. So we're here today looking, and we've started anew. So we're looking to, again, subdivide these 2 lots. And that's basically our presentation, and happy to hear from the public or answer any questions.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Gilmartin? No. Antoinette, is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on the application?
Yes, Mr. Brogard just put his hand up.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Brogard, I just need your camera on and your mute taken off, please.
Hello, can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Well, I own the property directly adjacent to the applicant's property, and I have carefully reviewed his application, and I'm here tonight to tell this board that I support the application.
What's the address, Mr. Brogard?
Just for the record, it's across the street, not adjacent.
What's the address?
120 Sanford Place.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for weighing in. It's always good to hear that it's not a problem with the neighbor.
It's nice when neighbors agree.
Technically, we didn't open the public hearing, so we should probably just do that, right? We didn't vote to open the public hearing.
My bad.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, that's true. It's a public hearing. I'll move that the planning board open the public hearing on this application for the Platt properties on Sanford Place.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Sorry about that, Kathy.
I just didn't want you to close the public hearing if you hadn't opened it.
And Michael Brogard's nice comments are presumably will be of the public record because he appeared both before and after we opened the official public hearing. Nice to have him of record.
Thank you.
To incorporate that the owner of 120 Sanford Place is in favor of this application. Thank you very much.
Anyone else, Antoinette?
Nope, that's it.
If no one has any other questions for Mr. Gilmartin, I would move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thanks, Rooney.
Thank you.
Okay.
I gotta go back.
Baptist Church.
Our agenda, yeah.
Our
So
third.
we have public hearing for Community Baptist Church.
So let's do it the right way this time. Could we have a motion to open the Community Baptist Church public hearing?
So I will
Move.
move right.
Moved and second, I vote aye.
Okay, I have the plan ready for
Aye.
when the applicant wants to.
I also
The
reviewed
ayes have it. We're opened.
the affidavits for this application of posting and mailing, and they look to be in order.
Thank you.
Okay, and Chair, I have Bailey Larkin here. I'm assuming to represent the application. I don't have a list, so I'm not sure, but I'm imagining.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. What just happened to her? Hold on. Oh, here she is. Okay. So Bailey, we just need you to put your camera on and unmute yourself.
Hi. Bailey Larkin with Bennett Reed, offices at 212 Windmill Lane in Southampton on behalf of the Community Baptist Church. Curtis Highsmith, I believe, is also on the meeting this evening as a representative for the Southampton Housing Authority. This is an application for a 2-lot subdivision. This property is improved with the existing Baptist church and also a single-family home. It was previously considered 2 lots, and we're proposing to subdivide it along the previous boundary of the 2 lots that were there formerly. When the church acquired the property, they were required to merge the parcels. But at this point in time, they're looking to create that 2-lot subdivision so that the church can be maintained on a separate parcel, and the front lot, proposed lot 1, would be improved with a multifamily residence for affordable housing. The subdivision application was before the zoning board a few months ago and received variance approval for lot area, lot width, and for the proposed use as a multifamily residential property. This parcel would have also, and we've shown it on our plan for the board, parking on the residential parcel that would be for use by the church. And we had discussed with the zoning board that we would establish a non-exclusive easement for use by the church. It would also provide a supplemental parking for the multifamily residents, although the multifamily residents will have compliant parking on that parcel. I haven't received any calls on the application, but I don't know if the board has any questions or if there's anyone from the public on this.
I had one question, Bailey. You mentioned that when the church purchased the property, they were required to merge the lots. What was that requirement and why has it disappeared now?
New York State had required that they merge the parcels when the church was approved for the acquisition of it. At the time, the church also had contemplated converting that residence into offices for the church's use. And they actually received zoning board approval to convert that building to office space, but never moved forward with the conversion. The reason for the subdivision now is because the Southampton Housing Authority will be acquiring that residential parcel, and they'll be the one who will be developing the affordable housing on the residential lot.
And that will satisfy, the state won't, that's okay with the state in that they required it be merged, but now they're okay with it being unmerged?
It was required because the church themselves was holding that parcel at the time, but now they will be selling it off.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Chair, I do have Curtis here as well. Would you like me to allow him to come in too?
Sure, absolutely. In the meantime, does anybody else have any questions for Bailey on the board? Okay, let's welcome Curtis.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for hearing the application. I'm here for any questions that you may have. This is a 2-year process. And the church had a number of different goals in mind for the lot, but unfortunately did not have the resources to take care of it. So we feel that this representing now the 4th affordable housing project for Southampton Village, and how we designed this particular lot to mimic a single family home from every vista. I think this is the best way to showcase this particular project, especially in this location, in this area. We took advantage of existing density, and we're not expanding that density in greater than what we would do on normal projects, which are multifamily projects. It's a 2-family home with an accessory apartment. So we try to be really restrained in making sure we're sensitive to the community.
Can you explain the parking situation? I understand that there's going to be like ancillary parking for the church on the property that's being subdivided?
Yes.
Let me share my screen, Curtis. Hold on a second.
Sure. So what we did is we made sure that all egress was going to travel in the same direction for the parking lot. And that's one way. It would come off of Powell and come out on the private road, which is Plant Street or Reverend Lee Drive. We also took the residential parking and placed it behind the house, which also enters from the private road, Plant Drive. We tried to take as much activity off of Powell as possible and not to have activity going in both ways. So it will be properly signed. There will be notifications to indicate that traffic is only to flow in one direction. And the residence, as was stated prior, has its own parking, but allows for runoff if necessary over on the commercial parking lot.
So is the church parking being granted by an easement?
Yes.
Currently, there's no parking for the church, and they actually benefit from an easement on the property to the north.
Yes.
So the parking lot now will be more localized to the south rather than street parking.
Exactly. Right now, the church utilizes more parking down Plant Street. So when they have activities, and remember, this is just usually it's designated times. It's Sunday, and it may be during 1 day or 2 days a week for Bible study or for some type of church meeting. So this is not a parking activity or parking activity. Parking is usually designated for a specific, and that's Sunday and maybe a few times during the week.
I have a question. How much parking do you normally require?
What do you mean by we normally require?
How much parking is necessary for the church?
Oh, well, right now I think we're proposing 24, 25 parking spaces. The church wanted originally also looked at taking the entire lot and converted it into parking. So I don't know the membership number for the church itself, but if we can take 25 cars off of the street, it's definitely a benefit to that community in that area.
Curtis, for the housing that's there, how many parking spots would be normally required for?
I'm sorry, Bailey, I believe there's 6 parking.
Yeah, there's a total of 6 spaces that are
6, okay, thank you.
2 within garages, and then there's 4 outdoor parking spaces, all in the back of the residence.
Yeah, okay.
Does the village even have a requirement for church parking? I mean, how would they figure out how many how would that even be done? I don't think there is there, Kathy?
Nope.
If you were building a new church, yeah, they do have something for public assembly, so they would use that, but I'm not even sure it would apply because it's being a religious use.
Right.
The one thing is they do have parking requirements for housing, but this is the way they're setting up the easement. The overflow parking can be used by the residents and their guests, for instance, when the church isn't using it. So they're not restricting it.
Yeah, Curtis, what's going to be the selection process for this one? Is this village only? What I know you run an exquisite. So we're not going to get veterans from Erie, Pennsylvania. What's the requirement?
Well, what we're going to have an open lottery. Every one of our projects that we do, new construction, rental, whether it be rental or home ownership, we typically have an open lottery process. We'll promote, we'll advertise. We can't, by fair housing, have preferences, meaning specifically for local or specifically for live in or work in the village of Southampton. What we can do is actively promote heavily with individuals that live and work in the village. We also take in consideration our locals' income requirements and what we consider to be affordable in terms of rent. What's usually happened before is we take Nassau-Suffolk County numbers. We base our rental amount on AMI for the Nassau-Suffolk. What we've learned is sometimes that doesn't always relate to the community or area. So first things first, let's figure out what the workforce looks like in Southampton Village. what we consider truly to be affordable and make sure it works within Nassau Suffolk area median income requirements.
Okay, so you're still stuck with a larger requirement, right?
I would love to be able to say live and or work in the village of Southampton. We can't. We can't. We can't even. Once we say that, I violate so many programs. And on top of that, I'm not sure what type of funding mechanism I'm going to have. It will be some state funding. There definitely will be some county funding, and therefore we have to abide by fair housing guidelines. Okay,
because I have gotten criticisms even in the brief time I've been trying to help Roy that we're building this housing for people in Syracuse to get a beach house.
It's not happening.
The goal that you're looking for is important.
We've done the numbers. I mean, now this will represent. I've taken over the housing authority since 2014. This will represent over 175 units of housing that I've constructed and built and brought to the town of Southampton. When we do our lottery numbers, when we do the actual physical numbers, based on zip code, applicants that apply typically don't go further west than Brookhaven Township. The majority of the applicants are local. When we did Sandy Hollow and Spionk, those are the more notable projects that we most recently did. 65% of the applicants were local. A large percentage of those that were in Brookhaven Township come from Southampton, were forced to relocate to Brookhaven Town and are now coming home. So it's just not the case.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any issues with the plan that you want to address?
No, but like with the other application, we've reviewed this under SECRA for the land division, and we reviewed the EAF and prepared a part 2 and recommending a neg deck. So I circulated that earlier this week for the board to consider.
So if there's no objections, we would vote to approve the neg deck.
Sure, I understand.
Would you like a motion on that, Roy?
What's that?
A motion to approve the neg deck on this property.
I'll second it.
Antoinette?
Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Claire, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Piazza?
Aye.
Antoinette, is there anybody in the audience who wants to make a comment on the application?
Nobody has their hand up, no.
I would move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you all. I appreciate, trust me, I understand the time you guys do. I appreciate each and every one of you and your time.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Curtis.
Well,
take care. All right, back to the agenda. Where are you? Okay. Last.
All right, so that concludes our public hearings. We move into subdivision 54 North Main Street. I believe I saw a decision come across my desk about that, didn't I?
Yep.
Did.
So Alan, would you make a motion to?
I'll make a motion that we approve the decision before us with regard to the North Main Street subdivision with the flag lot that Council Cooley has given for our approval.
I'm looking for the...
I'll second it.
Chair, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Claire, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Cowell?
Aye.
And Mr. Piazza?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. That application is approved.
Sorry about that.
7 Powell Avenue.
We haven't heard anything from the applicant, and as expected, because he had said that he was reaching out on to Verizon and would be submitting a revised site plan when he has those details worked out. So I suppose we just adjourn this or just keep it on the agenda for next month. I guess you adjourn it, right, Alice?
Yeah.
Vote.
Well,
So it's not at the request of the applicant, but it is adjourned pending receipt of materials from the applicant.
It's already adjourned, so we need to re-adjourn it?
no.
No, right?
Roy, I think it was done mutually because it's not a complete application.
So are we good just letting it be, Alice?
I think you should adjourn it. I'm with Kathy.
All right, let's adjourn it. I make a motion, we adjourn 7 Powell Avenue until the applicant comes back with the materials that he needs to complete his application.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. I think that leaves us to minute approvals. And thank everybody for reviewing the minutes and making the corrections that I saw everybody made. Does anybody have any additional issues they would like to change, or are we good to approve them?
Excuse me, Chair. Ms. Cooley, I did not get any revisions from you. Is that, are they forthcoming, or are you okay with all the minutes?
I was fine with them.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Then we are all set and all the modifications have been made, Mr. Chair.
You got Mr. Piazza's, you got Mr. McFarland's corrections. Yeah, great. Okay. Alan, you want to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 2nd and November 30th?
Yeah, I'll move that the committee vote to approve the minutes of November 2nd, 2020 and November 30, 2020 as submitted through drafts for everyone's approval.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So the next work session, which would have been the last Monday in December, has been moved to be a joint work session public meeting on January 4th, 2021. Good riddance to 2020. At 5:30 p.m. We will continue to do Zooms. And that's when we will see everybody on this channel again.
Yeah. Be the evening before the Georgia vote.
I just want to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane.
Happy Christmas.
Thank you. Bye.
Happy holidays, everybody.
We need a motion to close the meeting.
Oh, sorry. Close the meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.